I want you to give a warm clapping for our staff here that worked very hard for you to do the tasting, for you to do everything. You know, I want something warm for them. Let's give them some love. Your stage manager over there takes care of you every time. So, as I said, the stage is yours, my friend.
One thing I do
Yeah, it's on.
One thing I do need is everyone's got something to taste. I've got nothing.
All right, we're gonna bring you some.
We need something as well. A set for Jesse and a set for myself.
All right.
Hi everyone, my name is Phil Bailey. I really wanted to do this session about Tomas Estes. As I'm sure most of you are aware, there is the Tomas Estes Tequila Embassy. And some people might know Tomas, have met Tomas, but how many people really know who he was and what he has achieved? This is Jesse, Thomas's son, and all of our legends and the legends out there. And I'm very proud to have Jesse here to present with me on this. As I said, the big thing for me was to tell Thomas's story, because most people say, yeah, Tomas is a guru, he's a tequila ambassador, but he was a real pioneer. And he was someone that was out there making things happen at a time when, well, tequila didn't even exist in Europe. In the 70s, it was, if it did exist, it was probably even false tequila. It wasn't real tequila. And if you think about that period in Mexico, Mexicans didn't even drink tequila. I would go to Mexico and I'd be in a bar. I would, how about this? Is this good? Can you hear me now? Okay. I would be in a bar and I would ask for, they say, hey, what do you want to drink? And I say, oh, I want tequila. And they'd look at me like, oh, crazy. It's like, I want to drink tequila. And if it was mezcal, even more so. For them, the biggest drink in Mexico was Presidente brandy, Bacardi rum, and Scotch whiskey. And tequila was really the poor man's drink. Well, anyway, Tomas helped to change that, even for the Mexicans, if you can believe that. Anyway, bottom line is, this is Tomas. Let's move this. Jesse is going to help me here. He's just going to jump in and out. But here is this is based on the book that we just made about Thomas's life. Unfortunately, he passed away before we could actually finish the book, so you can see it. He lived a big part of this and saw the book actually grow, and he gave his story personally to the parts that were really important. Starting in 76, all the way through, these are all his achievements in regard to the tequila world. And he was someone who continued to strive and make changes. I remember, in fact, we would be in bars in London and Paris and Amsterdam, and people would start to copy some of the ideas that we were doing, and I'm going, hey Tom, these people are copying this idea. Tom would just go, it doesn't matter, because by the time they copy it, we've already moved on, we're already doing something different. So anyway, a little bit about his life. This is young Tom, born in Whittier, not far from East LA, but California. And if you think of that area, Chicano culture was alive and well. I mean, you had the barrios, which still exist, obviously, but it was a wild, crazy place. And Tom was fascinated from Mexico, originally from this, that he just wanted to explore more. Look, this is East LA here, you can see it. And it's an animal house down there. We spent a number of, years traveling through Mexico, traveling through East LA, and Tom's ambition was to really try and convey that life, that heritage, that style to a European audience. This was in fact a 55 Chevy pickup that Tomas had in LA, and it was painted Empresa Pacifico, which means Company Pacifico, and it says Junta de Rebusca y Desarrollo, which is the Department of Research and Development. We'd go down into Mexico and pick up stuff. We'd drive around.
You go drinking, Phil.
Hey?
I said you go drinking, let's be real. Research and development.
Research and development, absolutely. Totally that. But yeah, he was fascinated with Mexico. And that one of the fascinating things about it was that he would go down to Mexico whenever he could, because like tequila, maybe not so much now, but in those earlier days, was really like a bohemian drink. For example, if I'm at a bar and there's a lady sitting at the bar and you go, hey, you know, you want a drink? You just go, yeah, I'll have a gin tonic. I'm going to say, well, this is going to be a very civilized encounter. But when she says, you know, I'll have a tequila, you're going to go, whoo, all right, this is going to be an interesting night, because you know tequila can make you crazy. Definitely made me crazy, and I'm sure that's how he was born.
Very likely, yeah. Literal tequila in my blood.
Anyway, Tom was quite a character. He went down through Latin America with his first wife, and they were sort of sorting out a few things. And he'd been to Amsterdam. He really loved Amsterdam. He's trying to work out a way to be able to live in Amsterdam. So he got this idea while traveling through Mexico. He went to Costa Rica, but coming back, he got this idea like, he would start a Mexican restaurant. And in Europe, there was no such thing as a Mexican restaurant, or a tequila bar, or any of that sort of stuff. So he started Cafe Pacifico, which was this super cool, tiny little bar on one of the worst streets in Amsterdam. Fortunately, there was a police station just across the road, called the Warmerstraat, but it was just a super cool, super friendly, full of atmosphere place, and it was a family. Like all the staff that worked in there, I mean, they worked there for years, and they're all really, they embraced Tom's ability to bring people together. And
so do you allow questions?
Sorry?
Do you allow questions?
Yes.
Why Amsterdam?
I think Tom had he went there just after Woodstock. So Amsterdam in those early days was pretty wild. And I think it still is, but it's a lot more regulated or civilized now, but then it was pretty wild. And I think that was an attraction for him, for his wild imagination of life.
I think, George, it was coming from, it was the end of the 1960s, right, in Southern California, the free love movement. Things were changing a bit in the U.S. The Vietnam War was in full swing. It felt a bit different. So in 1970, he visited Amsterdam for the first time, and it just blew his mind wide open, and he thought, I want to live here. How do I get here? He had never worked in a bar, restaurant, except back of house, kitchen porter, dishwasher. So really, he taught himself all of this, and Phil was there early days, and zero budget. So again, he took a lease in the second worst street in Amsterdam.
$15,000 he opened this place with.
15,000 US dollars, and bought all the equipment from flea markets, took some friends over who knew how to cook Mexican food from East LA, and figured it out. He had never made a margarita before, so he had to buy cocktail books and think, how am I going to do this? But he figured it out bit by bit, and
that was one of the most enjoyable experiences, was getting the margarita mix right. It would take us hours and different mixes to get that right taste, and at the end of it we go like, wow, next level.
Research and development. But George, to your point, I think Amsterdam was just kind of bohemian, alternative, and he wanted that.
And Tom really wanted to create something new, which was not existing, so he said, well, he loved Mexico, he made this Mexican cantina, and obviously he had to bring in all the ingredients. There were no tortillas, there was no tequila, there was a number of, in fact, he was good friends with Mimi Salsa from the original Salsa family, Don Javier Salsa's daughter.
I think it's Guillermo's aunt, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So Guillermo from Fortaleza. But so to show how forward-thinking he was, he even imported a tortilla machine. This was a gas-operated tortilla machine in the basement of our house. So we would wake up with fresh tortillas every morning. It was fantastic. And tortillas, you need to make them fresh every day. It's just the way it is. But yeah, he had this ability just to thing outside the square. This was like a patio that the original room had like 16 seats. And then he expanded here to get it up to about 42, which was, this place is tiny, but he would have queues of people, waiting 4 hours out on the street to get in. And it was that scenario where he was waiting at the bar, he was drinking margaritas, drinking tequila, and by the time you actually see, you get a seat in there, there's certainly so few seating. I remember there was this one guy, we called it the enchilada nosedive. He finally got to his table, he's sitting there, orders a plate of enchiladas, and he's sitting there with his elbows on the table, head in his hands, and his elbows just went straight into the enchiladas. Anyway, that's another story.
And Phil, you were talking about this kind of family feel back in those days, and for many years afterwards, but back in those days, I heard stories for the first year or two, you didn't have a till, right? It was the cigar box. So that was the HR department, payroll, accounting, everything in one little wooden box. All the money would go in, staff would take their wages, sometimes probably like an IOU.
And leave a note, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And it worked, right?
Yeah.
People were honest.
Yeah. It was very, well, that was also the time of Amsterdam when it was really, just very loving and thoughtful. And so from originally, this was the original restaurant, and this was the entrance through here, but this was like a storage space. Then eventually that's where the patio became, and finally, at the end of, I think, early 2000s, they expanded into this place, and it was just, it was a family. This was London. They opened London in 1982, and one of the things they did here was he had these Chicanos in East LA. He had them paint a big Chicano mural, which they put on the wall in London on the way to the toilets, just to once again reinforce that Mexican Chicano, Mexican-American culture. I mean, Cheech Marin used to come into the restaurant. It was like crazy stuff. Cheech and Chong. But yeah, that was London. Then they did Paris. Oh, sorry, this is still London. So this is actually London today. And in those days, it really became a place where, if you think tequila was that bad boy spirit, a lot of bartenders had no idea, what the hell is tequila? So they really would come there to learn about it. And that was a really, like a grounding, like Johnny G in the back here. I mean, I'm sure you came to Pacifico more than once to learn about tequila and learn about the effects of it. This is Paris, we opened Paris. Once again, this is in the city of Paris on Boulevard Montparnasse. 3 o'clock in the morning we came out and we painted the base of the tree white to make it look really Mexican. The city went totally crazy. Going, the tree's going to die. Well, the bark fell off and nothing happened. But that was the attitude. This is also in Paris. So this is Tomas. This guy was our bar manager. He used to work for the CIA. This guy was totally wild, I'm telling you. But Thomas was there, and I remember we're building it, we're doing the fit out, and a rep comes in one day, and he's going, he wants to sell some product. Where's the boss? I want to see the boss. We go, that's him. No, I'm the boss. No, he's the boss. And it's like, no, c'est pas possible. It's like, but Thomas was that sort of guy. He was hands-on, and that was the beauty about his attitude, which the staff embraced. I mean, if he wanted something done, if he couldn't do it, he wouldn't ask you to do it. He'd get someone else. But it was like, he would lead from the front. He would lead by example. This guy here, this is Tim Bundu. He came in the first week that we were preparing to open the restaurant. He was from Zaire. Very well. He didn't speak any English, and most of us didn't speak any French. But he ended up, after a number of probably 10 years, he became head chef in the restaurant. And it's just that thing of you could be at that level and grow to achieve anything you wanted. All you needed to do was just do it.
And actually around the same time, Phil, Singham, so we have another venue that's coming up now called La Perla in Paris, which was in '88. And Singham started basically, he came over as a refugee from Sri Lanka and asked for work, and my dad gave him whatever work he could, sweeping, cleaning at first, and then worked his way up to GM, and now he's the owner of La Perla. So he's taken over the venue. He owns La Perla Paris, which is amazing.
This was Cafe Pacifico in Sydney. This was my venue. And the idea was to really make it, we used to go to Mexico and visit all these crazy bars and wild ass places to get that feel of what is a real cantina. It's not like put a sombrero on the wall and a serape. It's like try and get that realism. So when you go to Pacifico, it's like you're in Mexico for a night and you get home safe. That was that sort of feel that we were trying to create.
I love this shot, Phil, the back part.
And the bar was all, I mean, even though it was a restaurant, it was all about the bar. The bar, if the bar was jumping, the whole place would jump. If the bar was dead, the place was flat. So the bar became a really important part of the whole. And here's Tom here, you know, early days, sanding the bar top. This is La Perla in Paris. And we used to have, well, probably still comes in, Philippe Starck, famous designer, and he used to love Pacifico or La Perla. And it was like here, he would say, there's a Mexican bar I love on Francois Mino called La Perla, very classy, very Mexican. I like the low design. You know, it was that thing of, it was nice, but it wasn't too nice.
And Philippe Starck was still a regular again. One year, asked the bartender, he said, hey, can you save me some empty bottles of Ocho for me to take home? And the guy said, yeah, of course, but why? And he said, because I buy like wine in bulk and I need something from Canada, and I love the design of these bottles. And we were like, oh man, what a compliment.
This is La Perla in London, in Maiden Lane, and there was 3 floors. But the ground floor was the bar and the restaurant. The first floor, they called it the Consulado de Este de Los Angeles, so East LA. And then the top
East
floor
LA consulate, yeah.
And the top floor was the Consejo Mexicano de la Salud, so the Department of Health. That's where the ambassador's residence was. Many nights spent there.
In fact, there's many people at this bar show who have spent the night in the ambassador's suite. The ambassador's suite was a futon on the floor in the corner of the office, and one of those camping showers where you have a little motor that creates hot water for you.
But he created this empire of all these bars and restaurants. I mean, it was just like incredible, and they were really life-changing for the industry. It was a place where people would come to learn about tequila. And he just went to the next level to really educate people, make them understand what is tequila and why is it so special. He was passionate about it. This was the Cafe Pacifico, Cafe Especial in Cologne. We opened 3 venues there, and 2 of them are still open. And that was from the mid-80s, you know, so it's pretty epic. This is another series we did. So it also used to attract a lot of, you know, famous people. So we used to have Queen coming to Amsterdam, and they received the gold record awarded to them in Cafe Pacifico. They used to love tequila. Like I said, it's that sort of bad boy spirit. It's, you know, wild and crazy. Here's Andres Thompson. So he did this interview in London the first year we were open. He wanted to be paid in cocaine. It was like, it was the sort of place. It was just, this is Keanu Reeves.
Behind the bar, right?
Yeah.
Drinks.
Yes. And this is a list of like a selection of some of the people who used to come into Pacifico. And it's, you know, Carlos Santana, Chaka Khan, Cheech Marin, you know, the Cranberries, Danny Minogue, Danny DeVito. I remember Danny DeVito at the bar like, this is good. I haven't It's hilarious. But one of the principles of it was about having fun. You know, come in, enjoy, embrace it. Because why do we go out? We go out to enjoy. I'm sure you want to eat and drink, but you want that whole experience. And Tom was a master of that. So education became a big part of this. And in 1984, we started doing Semana del Tequila. Because Thomas had noticed a growth in margarita sales and tequila, so it was a whole focus on educating people about tequila. And it was, once again, based on fun. If you look at the bar, this is in Paris, but look, we've got Herradura, Orandane, there's Mezcal, there's a whole range of Salsa, Bonitos, Centenario, 1800, and all you can buy in Amsterdam or Paris at the time was probably 2 or 3 tequilas. So we would bring this stuff in and just share it to get people to go, you know, you can go beyond. There's so much more to tequila than just that. Lip, sip, sup. Taste it. Then we also had this.
Say that as you have a shot machine on the.
Yeah, this is the slammer machine. It had like a little. That's the timer, and it had a little pad here, so you get the shot, fill it up with tequila, top it up with champagne, and then you bang it. Of course, Estes, shoot it down, slam it back on the timer, and so it's the quickest shot. Not most. I ended up winning. I got 0.5 of a second. Like you get down here, make sure you don't get all over your face. If you get over your face, it doesn't count. But yeah, and it was really that thing of helping people explore and discover. So we produced like these little booklets. You know, this is tequila, this is mezcal, this is how it's made. You know, and then talking about different types of tequila and mezcal. And that just went on until finally they were producing this little booklet. And you know, the Semana del Tequila became more focused on education, still fun, but less of like the slammer, but more on taste this, taste that, doing flights. Thomas, of course, was appointed official tequila ambassador to Europe by the Camara Nacional Industry Tequila with Julio, so they were the 2 first tequila ambassadors.
First and only, I think.
Yeah, well no, there are actually more appointed now, but they have very little to do with actually being out. It's more like they are influential people, rather than what they're doing for the category. Thomas held this event in south of France, Ile Pendor, part of the Ricard private family, and it was a 4-day seminar a conference of tequila. And in fact, you had all these amazing people. Here's a list of, like it shows some of the characters in there, but this was the first time the industry actually came together to actually talk about tequila. Before then, it was really like, well, I'm there doing my thing, and I'm there doing my thing, and you can't look at what I'm doing, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing. And suddenly people started opening up. After day 2, suddenly this whole vibe changed in the room, and people were going like, I do this, and what do you do, and how does that work? And unbelievable. It was really a momentum change.
Yeah, I think you guys, hopefully you see the industry now as being quite collaborative within agave spirits and tequila specifically. You know, you've got Cantina Mexico outside that it's 5 brands sharing one stand. It was different back in the day. The tequila houses were kind of really competing in a more almost aggressive way, weren't they?
Oh, totally. It was like, this is my turf. You know, I'm going to, not, you can't come here, you can't look at what I'm doing. This was the program, so it was like full days up to like, up to 9:30, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was like 3 full days of every imaginable program you could talk about coming from the people that like the echelons of the industry. And then of course, Thomas created the Tequila Embassy in London Bar Show, and then Moscow, and then, I mean, he just started traveling around the world, spreading that word of love. He became a global educator. This was in Hong Kong. No, actually, this is in Macau. But it was just that thing of sharing the agape love with people across the world and making people passionate. His whole thing, what did you say? He was an ambassador maker.
Yeah, so my dad was very, very proud to be named the official tequila ambassador from Mexico to Europe. But he would always say, I'm not the tequila ambassador. I'm the tequila ambassador maker, or at least I want to be. So he wanted to share his, not just knowledge, but his enthusiasm and his passion with as many people as possible, create ambassadors for the category all around the world, which there's several of them, I think we can say safely several of them sitting in this room today, and many at the Spar Show.
So it was sharing that love. So we should taste some ocho, which is what he created, and I'm really thirsty.
I'm thirsty too, Phil.
So Jesse, if you want to, we've got about, is it 10, 15 minutes?
20 minutes.
Beautiful.
I'm just looking at the tasting order here, guys, because I don't keep track of it. So, left to right, you should have 5 glasses. Everyone have 5 glasses in front of you? Okay, so these are 5 different, some of you guys were at my seminar earlier, so we talked about what these will be. But these are 5 different single fields. Do you have a photo of the map up, Phil?
I can go to it now.
So 5 different single fields produced by Ocho. So think of single vineyard wine, if you think of single plots of land. We've basically replicated this with Tequila Ocho. So every batch we've ever produced and will continue to produce comes from a different single field mainly in Los Altos de Jalisco in Mexico.
And one thing to understand is that Tom came up with this idea of harvesting one field to make one tequila. So sometimes that field wasn't big enough. So there might be 2 vineyards from that year, from different fields, 2 completely different, or even sometimes 3 different tequilas. In fact, should we taste and then we watch Tom's video?
Yes, let's do that. So moving left to right, I'm going to tell you what these are. So the one on your far left is the 2017 Los Nopales, which is a very unusual one. Los Nopales means nopal is a type of cactus plant. So nopales, the field is naturally surrounded by cactus plants, nopal plants. So you can actually see the physical demarcation of the field through these plants. So this is a very interesting harvest. 2017 Los Nopales. So this was produced at La Alteña, the original distillery for Tequila Ocho. The next one moving to your right is 2021 El Tigre. That was the first ever batch we produced at Los Alambiques, the new Tequila Ocho distillery. 2022 in the middle, in Nacimiento. 2023 San Jerónimo on the number 4, and 2023 Corralillos. Corralillos is a very interesting one that I wanted to include because it's the first field that we've harvested outside of Los Altos de Jalisco, first and only. Corralillos is not on this map because this map is a bit out of date. Corralillos on the map would be right here, near Lake Chapala. So it's outside of Los Altos. It's 1,550 meters above sea level. To give you an idea, the highlands where most of our fields are, the fields sit between 2,050 meters above sea level and nearly 2,300 meters above sea level. So big difference, right?
And the soil is really high clay, so it's down there, it's more loamy.
Yeah, so the soil, again, typical Los Altos soil in this region here is very rich in iron and clay, as Phil said. So it's this beautiful red soil. So obviously, Corralillos, for instance, is a very different soil composition. Tierras Negras, that we tasted about an hour ago in the last session. Again, Tierras Negras means black soil, different soil type, different soil composition. So, moving left to right, 2017. What I would actually do, I know some of you guys have been tasting already, but try just nosing these different samples. Just nose the 5. Smell the back of your hand in between samples. It'll just reset your olfactory sensors in your nose. And see if you notice similarities and differences just on the nose in these 5 samples.
Jesse, what was number 3?
Number 3, off the top of my head, was in Nacimiento. Sorry, I was going to say San Jerónimo, that's number 4. So ask yourself questions as you nose this. Do you find these samples mineral, vegetal, herbaceous, citric, fruity, peppery, spicy?
Should I play the video while they're going through it?
Yeah, go ahead and nose these, taste these at your own pace, and we're going to watch a video of I think it's of my father explaining the concept of ocho, Phil, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we use
Can we get the volume?
creator and found. Is that right?
Yes, I'm guilty.
So, what is it that made you come up with this concept of tequila based on terroir, and why did you want to work with the Camarena brothers?
Well, they invited me. They said to me, hey, do you want to make a tequila with us? There was only one answer, affirmative. And then I asked them, well, how are we going to make a tequila different to the two that you already have, which are Tesoro and Tapatio, two of the most respected tequilas in the Mexican market and the international market. We're talking about tequila, and especially tequila ocho, which we're doing a lot of comparisons between ocho and wines. So with wine, it is that in the daytime, in a place like Côte d'Or, Burgundy, you're going to have a nice hot day, and that will produce biologically fruit and sugar in the wine. Now at night, when it's cooler, the acids develop. If you're in a wine region that only has hot during the day and night, you're not going to have the acids, so that the fruit, without acidity to give it a structure and to give it some interest, it's going to be flabby. We call it flabby or jammy. It's not interesting. So what that wine needs is that balance between the acidity to hold it together with the structure, with the fruit and the sugar. Now, the same thing occurs with agaves that are produced into tequila. With the agave, we want to have a lot of sugar content to give it fruitiness. But we also want to have some acidity, which again holds it together, gives it structure, and gives it some interest, gives it an edge. Also, in a place like the Highlands, when it has hot days, cool nights, in the cool nights, the acidity can develop. There's also evidently acidity that comes out of the nutrients and minerals from the earth itself. Then, the more mature the plant gets, it's going to get more sugars, and it will get more acids. Now the acids, again, give it structure, but more than that, the acids give it extra nuances, extra complexities in the flavor profiles. In the Tequila Valley, this is a generality, that the tequilas which are produced from the agaves in that place tend to be rather forward. If we use a wine term, they would be masculine. They're aggressive without a negativity, without a negative aspect to it. They're very expressive, and they tend to be earthy and herbal. Here in the Highlands, again, to use the wine term, the tequilas produced here from these agaves are said to be more feminine, more recessive, softer, more fruity, rounder, floral. Having come to this opportunity with this knowledge or education, formation from terroir, from France, understanding that there is a certain influence of terroir between the Tequila Valley and here, I said to the Camarenas, I asked them, can we actually make batches of tequila, productions of tequila from one vineyard? Vineyard meaning one certain demarcated, limited place. One terroir, more or less. which we are calling campos or ranchos.
Basically, food.
Yes. They said, well, yes, we have enough ranches, separate ranches, amongst us in the family, where we can actually produce single vineyard, single rancho tequilas.
So what's unique about this to start with was that Thomas. What's unique about this, excuse me, is that Thomas doesn't actually make tequila. He's got a distiller coming to him, asking him to make a tequila. Normally it would be you go to the distiller and say, will you make me a tequila? It's a complete reverse. So that was one of the points that made it really unique. And the other point was that they didn't know if it would work. But you taste the differences here. And for some reason, each one has its own character, its own personality. If you look at most brands, they're looking to make a consistent product. Every time you buy that brand of whatever spirit, you want it to taste the same each time. Tom is pushing that completely out to just go, well, let's see what the gods will give us.
Yeah, so again, except for the first one on your left, which was a different distillery, the four on your right-hand side are produced in exactly the same fashion. So what changes from batch to batch is the location of the agaves that were harvested in that batch. And of course, within that location is all of the factors that we reference to as being part of terroir, right? Soil composition, microclimate, altitude, orientation towards the sun, subsoil and drainage, among many other factors, right? So what did you guys find in these 5 samples? Same, little bit different, noticeably different?
I myself think that it's incredibly different, and we're talking about individuality. So my question to you is, do you have a favorite? Like, there must be batches that you like better than others, and is there like this one batch that's like?
I do, definitely. Los Corrales from 2010, Los Mangos from 2010, totally different, but incredible. And I mean, that's just as an example.
Follow-up question, do you have one for me?
At home. But yeah, there are some real favorites that stick out. And it's just like, wow.
But I think that I think there's a great, you used a great word in there, individuality. And I think this was a time when Ocho launched when vodka, premium vodka was dominating the market. Many brands were moving towards a very neutral flavor profile. Brands, I don't just mean a vodka, brands of different categories were moving towards this more neutral flavor profile. And one of my father's goals was to move away from this mass production, mass marketing, mass mindedness, and move towards individuality. So thanks for picking up on that.
Do we have time for one more video? Yeah, we have. I'm going to play this. You guys can ask questions. But this is Thomas with another project, which is a continuation from Ocho. Just to see, this is his mind thinking outside the story. And I think that's sort of soaking with Jesse's brain. So it's going to be another, well, already an unknown character.
So he met with Tom Estes in the agave fields in the Randas, and Tom has just developed a new product here called Corrado, based on his Ocho tequila, and I'll pass you over to Tom to explain. Tom, what is this?
Jesus,
And where did it come from? So this is Corrado. So Tom, where did the idea come from? And what is this about?
Can I go back in the history a bit, Phil?
Yeah, please.
Well, back in our days, those very early days in the late 70s, Phil, when we were in Amsterdam, I went to London once and I visited a Russian restaurant called Nikita's. I was served 2 flavored vodkas. One was lemon flavored, the other was chili flavored. The lemon was very artificial. It was almost like something you'd wash the loos with or disinfect something. The chili was lovely because it was natural chili. I went back to Amsterdam and started playing with our own flavors. Always with the idea to flavor specifically with only natural things. We took roasted coffee beans, we put vanilla beans or pods, we put cinnamon bark. We started putting real fresh liquid, pineapple. We started doing all kinds of crazy things and selling them. Oh, and chilies. Now, back to this crazy.
Yeah. If you guys come visit us, sorry, if you guys come visit us in Capital Pacifico, London, the back bar is original. So you can still see the shelf that was for curados. It still has hand painted on it, curados. So 42 years later, or almost 43 years later. So anyway, sorry, a little piece of history there.
Yeah.
Meet with Tom Estes in the agave fields in the Rwanda, and Tom has developed a new product here called Corrado. Based on his Ocho tequila, and I'll pass you over to Tom to explain. Tom, what and where does it come from? So this is Corrado. So Tom, where did the idea come from, and what is this about?
Can I go back in the history of this, Phil?
Yeah, please.
Well, back in our days, those very early days in the late 70s,
This
Phil,
is for all of you who missed that
Amsterdam.
first
I
commentary.
went to London once.
You're going to
and I
test
did
your
a
understanding.
Russian restaurant called Nikita's. I was served 2 flavored vodkas. One was lemon flavored, the other was chili flavored. The lemon was very artificial. It was almost like something you wash the loos with or disinfect something. The chili was lovely because it was natural chili. I went back to Amsterdam and started playing with our own flavors. Always with the idea to flavor specifically with only natural things. We took roasted coffee beans, we put vanilla beans or pods, we put cinnamon bark. We started putting real fresh liquid, pineapple. We started doing all kinds of crazy things and selling them. Oh, and chilies. Now, back to this crazy, weird, and so simple product. I say those words because what this is absolutely simple. There's nothing weird or complicated about it, and yet it's a kind of a fascination that nobody has done it before because it is so simple, it's so obvious. Instead of infusing with various sundry, all kinds of other essences, natural essences, what I thought of about 3 years ago, 1 year after having succeeded in getting Tequila Ocho produced. Tequila Ocho, which is a very, very old school type tequila, meaning made extremely carefully, artisanally, with a lot of heart and a lot of soul, as opposed to commercially and industrially and mass produced. Once we had this tequila, this Ocho, I thought, Oh my goodness. What if instead of infusing our own tequila with all this cornucopia of other things, what if we put something indigenous or essential from the tequila production itself back into it, like cooked agave? After harvest, when these beauties have sat under this beautiful, wonderful, magnificent Mexican sun for, let's say, about 8 years, at least for Ocho, average 8 years. Once they're harvested, they go into the oven. The heat chemically changes the starches into sugars, which are not really sugars, as I said, they're fructans. This fructan is really, really sweet. It's a bit like pumpkin, cooked pumpkin, or yam, or sweet potato. Now, what we actually do is we take our pure Blanco unaged tequila. You see the color in this does not come from aging, it comes from no barrel. This is purely from the beauty of the cooked agave. The cooked agave, which becomes actually not unlike this earth. So very, very red. What we do is we infuse, we macerate Blanco tequila, clear, absolutely clear, colorless tequila, with some fibers which are saturated naturally right out of the oven. We do nothing to it except bring it out of the oven, place it in a container with this Ocho tequila, and allow it to sit and work, much as one would do with a quantity of tea in a teapot or a teacup. At the point when we think we've got enough tea, we pull it out. Same with the agave fibers.
So is that based on color or flavor?
Phil, thank you very much. It's really seriously based on flavor. What is the flavor we wish to have? Dry tequila with an accent, with a sideline of sweetness. We do not wish to have too much sweetness because we don't want to overpower the agave essence, the integrity of the agave by itself. I reckon it's wonderful to drink by itself as an aperitif, but there's a lot of possibilities to mix. Picking up kaffir lime, mandarin, orange, creme de cacao. Now, there's a big trend, a big fashion in the spirits world and in the tequila world on 100% agave. This Curado starts at 100% pure agave tequila, and we add more. We say it's 108% de agave tequila, 108%. This is a product that I'm really pleased to share with the world. We were the first ones that have done it. We're very proud of pioneering again, pushing the envelope in ways that other people have not done.
Well, that's it, folks. Thank you for your interest. One final thing on the Corrado is that when they put it to the CRT have actually classified it as a Blanco tequila, which is only going. Anyway, thank you for your interest.
Guys, as you know, Athens and Warsaw in particular was a real spiritual home for my father. So we'll just raise a quick glass. I know we're over time, but salud, cheers to Tomas. Cheers to you guys. Thank you all for being here. Yamas.